again. Footy and Frothies for the first time in a month, Barn. It's just the two of us.
Yes, it might be a little more peaceful, a little less erratic. We'll see how we go.
Give us strength. We've Barn, how many beers have you had? Only a couple?
I've had a sip out of one.
Oh, there you go. I'm on the homemade hard solo, so let's see how we go today.
Homemade hard solo.
In other words,
right.
I found a bottle of vodka in the back of the freezer, so I'm going to drink it.
Up a can as we speak.
Yeah, I'm full of class here in the west of Sydney. But anyway, we're back in Zoom land because it's school holiday restrictions, I guess. We'll get through it. Pretty good rounds.
It costs a fortune to drink at the pub these
There's
days.
also the fact I don't have a lazy 150 to spend before Anzac Day. But anyway, nor on Anzac Day, but that's a different story. Now, if anyone wants to sponsor us, please write in. But apart from
please
that,
do, absolutely.
Yeah, what's cracking? How do you enjoy this week of footy?
Oh, mate, there was some real good footy played this weekend. Some really exciting results. You see the outsiders get up in a couple of those games and do it pretty emphatically as well. Really good to see. As we mentioned, for probably the last year and a half, it's just getting closer and closer. And it seems now at the moment to be getting closer and closer by the week. So,
all bar the two results I was kicking myself, and we did both want to tip the other way in the Dogs game and a little bit in the other Friday night. What was the other coin toss game there? The late Friday game. Oh, the Parramatta game. Fucking
Parramatta game, yeah.
Unfortunately, it wasn't so much a coin toss result. They both got flogged, but the writing was a little bit on the wall. So that was both, good to see. I thought
especially
Tigers,
with the Dogs and
then Tigers acquitted themselves fairly well without a lot of luck, and Dragons blew the Warriors away. So
the Dolphins' attack looked even better without Hammer.
Absolutely fantastic, the Dolphins. So there was also bubbles bursting. I think, again, I certainly, if it wasn't on this show, on Joey's show, said I've got grave concerns about the Cowboys, and I think they're starting to play out, and I think it's a similar...
No, you said it here the last 2 weeks, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Even when they were winning.
And the Knights as well, so... Yeah, we see where the upside is for them. We'll analyse all of that. We've got a bit to talk about. So just quickly, because we are on Zoom and you'll see the pretty background, before I forget to plug him, GT Photography on Instagram and Facebook provided some of the fantastic backgrounds that we get to use for these shows. Campbelltown, Parramatta, Wynn, and a couple of others. We're hoping to get a few of Suncorp and whatever else we get in Queensland come Magic Round. Of course, if you're around Magic Round, let us know too. But check him out, Facebook and Insta, GT Photography. Good friend of the show, so sent those through, and that's what we use on the YouTube channel. Big news, I guess most immediate news today, is Dale Finucane announced his medical retirement after 251 games for the Bulldogs, Storm, and most recently the Sharks. Obviously, a couple of comps along the way. I think he scored in one of those grand finals, and played for New South Wales for between 2019 and 2021 as well. I'll let you have your say on him. Obviously, he was, I guess, has been influential in some of the culture change and what's happening at the Sharks at the moment, and just a tough player.
Yeah, obviously more so probably be remembered as a Bulldog and a Melbourne Storm player, more so than a Shark, but was instrumental in coming along with, came in at the same time as another one that's sort of leading the pack at the moment in Cameron McGuinness, and they really seemed to bring a level of professionalism to that forward pack, and never say die sort of attitude where they've been much better at grinding out games and putting in longer efforts, where the Sharks were a bit of a team that used to sort of fold up in the middle if they were getting behind on the scoreboard. So, brilliant competitor, especially through the Origins, and he played a couple of international representative games as well, I believe.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but fantastic defender, really strong, very good technique as well, tackle technique. A little bit of ball playing, but just more so known for that absolute grunt work and continual efforts in the middle of the field. And
reputation of the hardest trainer at, I guess, every club he's been at. Complete maniac in terms of setting the standard there. So wish him all the best for his future, which I think already they've said will involve being involved at the Rugby League Club in some point. I'm sure it'll be a bit of good guitar work along the way as well, and I'm sure he won't struggle to find a gig. So all the best to him and the family going forward. Sad news. It'll mean, of course, the next week all we hear about is CTE and concussion protocols and stuff again, which comes up. I don't I don't want to spend any time on it at the moment, to be honest. But obviously, I think that they're doing as much as they can. He's obviously a little bit of a throwback to a previous decade before a lot of these
Played a little bit different, yeah.
protocols. But I think they're heading the right way. I don't think we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The changes are being implemented. Any thoughts?
Realistically, unless you're going to revolve change the entire game and make it a non-contact sport, this is still going to be part of our sport until the day it's gone. There's not a great deal you can do about it. I had heard some rumours around the place that he'd been struggling for a little while with the effects of CTE and just his general body as well, not being able to, obviously doesn't bounce back the way you're not made of rubber.
I think he's another one of those blokes that had no knee cartilages and all that sort of thing.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure he had a pretty bad shoulder as well.
Yeah, it might be shoulder, but yeah.
And age gets us all, but massive career to get to 51 games as it stands now, and absolute warrior. CTE, as you said, don't really. It's way beyond our realms.
I've read lots and lots about it, but it's and particularly through this and MMA, being such a obviously
high
point of the game
sport,
is to knock the other bloke out, but I just saw a bit of what he had to say about the retirement. Is essentially the number more than the symptoms that is a concern, that had been clusters, which obviously was, I think, the case for Cordner and Orbison as well. It was I know they both had symptoms, but I think it was the number as much as anything. But it's like the old fighter's jaw. I sort of believe that once your jaw goes,
absolutely,
it happens so many more and more often.
Knocks that your head will take before. Well, interesting theories on it is basically it's your brain's way of trying to protect yourself. After a while, it doesn't let you put yourself through the damage that you used to do, and it just shuts off, and it makes your body incapable of taking those continued blows. So.
Well, I heard recently that former wrestler Mick Foley got a concussion from a roller coaster just because of the previous damage. That he ended up with concussion symptoms from that. There's been examples of it getting better as well. Brian Danielson's another one that came back from medical retirement after a few years and the brain healed a little bit. But obviously that's not relevant to a rugby league game, but hopefully for him it means in 10 years' time he's still got all his marbles.
We're going to learn a lot more over the next decade, and it's going to be a massive ongoing story. So.
Exactly. But as we said, all the best. All the best to the other breaking news that we missed last week. James Fisher-Harris heading to the Warriors next year from 2025. Came out the day after the show. We did touch on it on the Ruck Infringement show, but any thoughts? We won't spend heaps on this. It's older news now, but any thoughts on that? Obviously, apart from being not a bad signing when you've just lost Fanua Blake.
Brilliant recruitment from the Warriors. Another one of those ones. Obviously, Fanua Blake was done under the cloaks and daggers, and there was in radio silence. And the Warriors have seemed to be able to achieve the same thing here with Penrith and their willingness to swap him over. That pack needs another leader. With Fanua Blake leaving, and I'm sure they'll probably add another one to it along the way. But brilliant signing for them. Suits him down to the ground. Obviously, compassionate grounds, wanted to go home. He wants to raise his family in New Zealand. Kudos to both the clubs for getting it done. Probably leaves Penrith searching now for. They're starting to seem like they're fraction light in the middle. Now they've probably got some money there to go looking for a big signing. So
it does shit me that as soon as any of these players go, the first thing is who they sign from the West Tigers. But the same, I saw someone talking about today that Panthers should now be chasing Lockie Galvin. Like, these blokes are still under contract. But anyway, obviously Shane Richardson at the helm there will have faith in him. But
should start doing it the other way, mate. Just making up stories about who the Tigers are going to poach.
Well, it's always a third party or what's the other line? Parties that have agreed to discuss this on the condition of anonymity or
the sources
line.
The
sources,
name your sources.
And fellow diners. Great signing. Look, it's not a bad one to let go because it frees up from Panthers. End of the day, they're letting a 29-year-old prop go.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, as we've just seen with Dale Finucane, they can age very, very quickly.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily saying he had a really good game in the weekend, Fisher-Harris. Not saying he's on death's door or anything, but if you've got either some, coming through or some rods in the water, maybe not a bad thing.
Yeah, he's really a couple of years away from starting to get to that elder statesman in the front row. Around, most of them sort of peak around 25 to 30 sort of area. So he's still in that sort of peak zone. But yeah, they've got some of these young guys, Lindsay Smith coming through, and a couple of these other young forwards that they'll probably need to upgrade over the next few years as well. So,
and I'm told, as I've said before, I've told there's some better players we haven't even seen yet running around in the SG ball and that sort of thing.
I would not doubt it.
Carl Lawton off to the Cowboys next year for a couple of years, which leaves Jake Granville on the outer. Like-for-like replacement, I guess, a younger upgrade there. Solid workhorse, fair enough signing, I guess.
Can he play fullback there?
No. And Ethan Strange is extended through 2028. So
very good.
They've wrapped him up. That's the main signing news. Injury-wise, another big week for it. I guess the biggest is Kalen Ponga, 12 weeks with a Liz Frank injury. We know who's going to be the Origin fullback now, but very, very dire. And he hasn't, obviously, looked terrible these last 2 weeks, compounding the hip flexor. Newcastle are in a world of trouble, to be honest.
Looking that way. He didn't look right from the warm-up. It did not look right to begin with. Whether they're taking the weight off the hip and putting it on the foot has caused another problem. It's quite possible. You do generally start to load different parts of your body to compensate for a different injury, and that could have been a big part of why this has happened. It surprises me that played him the way that he was moving around in the warm-up. And
I was surprised. Unless it's absolute panic stations, I'm surprised they kept him on the field last week, to be honest. But they now don't have him for 12 weeks, and this is the result.
Yeah, the interesting one too. It looks like a horrible injury from the graphics shown by the physio. They're ripping tendons off and snapping your toes off, basically off the mold of your foot. I can't see that being very comfortable, and I don't imagine the rehab would be real easy. So I'm not sure what kind of fitness levels you're going to be at 12 weeks back in either. So
that's true. Yeah, you can't do a whole lot of cardio on one foot, can you?
No.
Tom Jenkins needs knee assessment. He's also TBC from Newcastle. The other long-term one was Jamal Fogarty, torn bicep, which is going to be about 3 months as well. And that's a big loss as well because he was the heart and soul of their attack, or at least the direction. KO Weeks playing in the halves with Strange this week. Big shoes to fill.
Going to have to be a completely different game plan by the looks of it for the Raiders now. They're going to have to go back to I would imagine a fair bit more of a flat style of play and running players into the line with players in support and trying to get some continuity there. Fogarty, I think, pretty sure has the most kick meters in the comp at the moment. So that's a massive thing to take out of your team, especially when Strange isn't known for the biggest boot in the world. And we yet to really see KO Weeks kick a ball in anger in the NRL. So couldn't tell you what kind of kicking game that bloke's got either. But that's. He's been instrumental in when they haven't been at their best, being able to get them back on the front foot or at least get them into good field position. So it's going to be a pretty big detriment to that side, I would imagine.
Yeah. Junior Totola, 12 weeks confirmed as well for his broken foot last week. Junior Tupou, also 6 weeks, another fracture in the foot, I believe. So he's going to be out for the near future. Judiciary news. Jason Hetherington took the one-match ban for his Rocky impersonation in a tunnel there with Reid. Reid was fined. The Bulldogs have gone back and asked why Reid was fined for just standing there. But the NRL, I believe, have said that it was because of his behaviour on the field, apparently just being a right little twat the whole game. So probably would have got what he deserved, Reid, there. I know he was very much into... Well, we waved goodbye to Jack, but he was also shit-stirring most of the game. It goes back to what we've discussed for years.
A lot of stuff around the head and shoulders in the ruck. And
goes back to what we've said for years, is that sometimes we should just let him throw one punch and let everyone get on with it.
Yeah, you can't do that these days, unfortunately. It can't be done at all, especially with, the consequences around, as you said, CTE, and you never know. One lucky punch can do all sorts of damage to someone. So
yeah. Any other thoughts on this whole charade?
Typical hooker being an absolute pest. He's obviously living in the legacy there of one of the greatest pests of all time in Michael Ennis and in the Bulldogs jersey. But I don't understand why the Knights didn't have him locked in the sheds.
Yeah, I know. Wouldn't
You see Reed walking down the tunnel. There's two dogs people there, and there's not one Knight bloke to be seen. And he walks out of the change rooms. Like, why isn't he locked up in the change rooms and kept away from that kind of situation? But
well, yeah, call me old-fashioned. Isn't that the ground official's job? Same as we saw Cam Munster suddenly just wander out and sit in the bike there for a couple of minutes before he went back on.
Interchange cards and shit these days.
Yeah, but
the club could have served him better by making sure he was in the shower and not in a situation to get himself a week suspension.
But anyway, the other thing you're not allowed to do is drugs and alcohol, and Braden Trindle failed with both of those over the weekend. He has been stood down this week. There's a court hearing in May. I imagine we won't see him through the no fault or whatever they call it till at least then, if not longer.
Yeah, well, there's a statement from the club saying that they've come to a decision with Braden's management that he won't be training or playing for any time in the foreseeable future. So I would imagine that's until there is a conclusion of that court case. Monday morning apparently. So sounds like it was a big night after the game, and then he's got up and driven on a suspended license as well, which is
that didn't help.
That's probably the worst point of the lot, to be honest.
Well, especially when it's the red flag.
When you don't have a license and you jump in a car. If you're about to drive
past a cop car, it's the red flag that shows up.
And if it is your car that's registered to you, the minute you drive past one, they know that you don't. The owner of the car doesn't have a license. So, silly boy.
That's all we can really say, I suppose, for the alleged stuff there. Anything else catch your eye, or should we get into this review?
No, let's do this review.
Kicked off with the Storm 18, the Roosters 12. In what should have been a really, really good game, if Ashley Klein had allowed it to be a really, really good game, Barn. But what did the stats say? And then, I'll just add the fact that he's very good at ruining really good games lately.
Made a mess of it, didn't he?
Yeah.
2 tries to the Roosters, 3 to the Storm. 2 out of 2 conversions, played 3 out of 3. It was 6 for the Roosters, 12 for the Storm at halftime. 80% completion for the Roosters, 75% for the Storm. 1 line break to 6, 30 tackle bust to 45, 11 offloads to 8, 2 forced dropouts from the Roosters, 358 tackles played, 323, 2 intercepts for the Roosters, 12 errors apiece, 10 penalties conceded to 7. 1 ruck infringement against the Storm, 1 sin bin against the Storm. Leslie Katoa with 85 Supercoach points. Jerome Hughes with 73. And then you had Manu and Blore, who were both on 68.
Yeah, for the most part in this game, when you were just watching it, it felt like a high-quality game. Yeah, and then obviously you just have the interference from the referee at a lot of times. And I'll get out of the way now because I just want to get one out of the way. It's been a few years.
Right.
And I'm just going to slap the officials across the board this week because I had a gutful. I know it's a bit of a cop-out thing to do at times, but I thought this one, old mate Wyatt was pretty ordinary in the Penrith one. I thought there was some average, obviously lots of shit in the Newcastle game, which led to what led there, and you can probably throw a few other games into it. I think it's just been very, very mediocre. I'll get that off my chest now. That's my slap for the week, and get back to this. Felt like a high-quality game of footy, but I don't know what we learnt about either team out of it. What were your takeaways?
Yeah, I thought it felt like it was a bit closer on the scoreboard than it probably should have been. I felt like the Storm were dominant for bigger parts of this game than the Roosters were, especially in that first half, and just couldn't really seem to find that killer blow. It'd end up with Munster sort of bombing around and cutting back on the wrong angle, or someone dropping the ball, getting close to the line, and all that kind of stuff. 5 tries from kicks really probably tells you more than anything. Like every try that was scored in this game came off generally a crossfield bomb, or I think the one was scored off a grubber. But it shows me that both teams were pretty well happy to sit on their defensive line, and they were able to repel the attack from both teams. Wasn't a lot of line breaks conceded. The Storm did make a few in the middle, and that one from Pappy, that was a howler.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times he just hits Munster on the chest and he scores under the post. Like he just burned through the middle. He's beaten 2 blokes and in the backfield, all he had to do was draw the fullback and he throws it 3 metres over Munster's head and behind another player. And the Roosters ended up getting it back, I'm pretty sure. So,
Yeah,
uh,
Tupou or someone picked it up.
yeah.
Yeah, just on your, maybe we just got the stage, and they do probably have the best, these two teams probably have the best goal line defence in the comp. Maybe just they're happy to cop it. They just say we'll hold on as long as we need to hold on.
But even like there's a lot of times with the the angled crash ball to the likes of Katoa and Crichton where they'd either get over the line and drop the thing or they'd just get held up, with 3 or 4 jerseys around them and pushing them back and they'd fall a metre or 2 short, where other games they probably scored 2 or 3 of those tries and it becomes a bit more of a free-flowing sort of game rather than the stop-start stuff that we did get out of this one, which really wasn't helped, as you mentioned, by some of the officiating in this game. Really slowed the game down and brought it to a complete stop at times.
Yeah.
Munster didn't help the fact trying to grab Teddy a bit too early, and how Teddy didn't end up with 10 in the bin for the trip, I have no idea.
I agree with both of them. That actually, to your point about the score being slightly flattering, Melbourne pretty much had all the ascendancy up until Munster got bin there, and it probably just slowed any chance for that next 10 minutes they went into their shell. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the Storm really did sort of back off in that period as well and just tried to sort of sit on the Roosters. They were backpedaling in defence, letting them take metres and then trying to push them into a corner, which happened more than it should have, unfortunately, again. Teddy seemed to be on fire in the first half and Manu was quiet and then they swapped roles in the second half and they probably looked a little more proactive in the second half with Manu taking a bit more of that ball through the middle of the field.
Manu didn't touch the ball in the first half. I think he had 27 metres or something at half time on the back of 350, which came from Teddy. Yeah. It's just the easiest thing in the world when you're watching a Roosters game, when you see Teddy tackled in corners or rushing a line and getting pulled down just before or flinging out the back, they're in trouble or their attack isn't quite cohesive. Look, I thought, something we haven't talked about a lot this year. Sorry, you're just going to...
No, I was just going to say, the Storm really did target players as well. The likes of Teddy, Keary. They rushed up on Cheese. Cheese had no time at all in this game. They were all over him. The markers were set for him every time he touched the ball, and I think he only made about 28 metres and had 2 or 3 runs. So, they really did target some of the linchpins for the Roosters as well.
I think there's also a conscious effort to hold back Nelson as long as they did until I think he didn't come until after Hargraves came off and almost forced their hand to overplay those 2 older front rowers in the second half, it felt like.
It was a big mistake, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought May and White were really holding court there, to be honest, for a 10 or 15-minute period, and they were making huge metres through the middle of the field. Had the Storm on the back foot, and they were getting them right down into that attacking zone time and time again. And then you see Collins and Jared Hargraves come back on, and they were both pretty much ineffective for that last 15, 20 minutes of this game.
In attack especially. Lindsay Collins still does some amazing off the ball work. But, I agree with you on that. Someone we haven't talked about a lot this year, it feels like, but he's having a really, really good year is Victor Radley. I think it's his best season. If not his best he's had. It's the best since he was being discussed prior to, choosing England and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Plenty of energy, not making the silly mistakes that we've seen out of him in previous years. And he's belting blokes too, putting them on their back pretty consistently. And I'd like to see him play a little bit less of that link role, to be honest. Just tuck it under the arm and really power through the middle a little bit more. I think that'd probably drag some of these guys back towards the middle of the field rather than pushing that link and, the ball just continually getting pushed to an edge.
Some of his best stuff's when he's followed Cheese half through a hole and then made his own break, and then he's able to link up with whoever it might be, Manu or Teddy. But I'd agree with that. But I think he's just, really, really going well. Crichton did as much as he could under the circumstances. Again, I think it was pretty good. Yep. And conversely, the Melbourne back row really starting to look fantastic. Sean Blaw's really turning into a proper player in only a couple of games in a Storm jersey. And Katoa's, we know he's pretty much good for a try every week. Knows the right people to follow and does a mountain of work in defence.
Yeah, and you throw the likes of Liero in there, who's been doing plenty of that mop-up work in the middle of the field. And, they're going a lot better than I thought they would, to be honest. Like, Bloor was always a question mark. Their middles they've been under fire for a couple of years, and this is probably the best performance in the last 2 years or so from their middles.
I still have the concerns, and I won't explain greatly, about Will Warbrick's defence. He was turned around a couple of times. He did have a hand in a try set up there, but he also missed a couple of those bombs where he didn't get up for them.
Yep.
He stands out like a sore thumb at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely does.
Anything else? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, as you meant, the 5 tries all coming from kicks. I thought May and White were very good in limited minutes. Their halves are decent without really punching holes in there, but their service to their outside guys was okay. Suwali had a few nice touches, but then again sort of went missing at different times during the game as well. You mentioned Crichton and Radley; they were brilliant. Manu was probably the Roosters' best. Him and Radley were probably the 2 best. Maybe throw Crichton in there too, but yeah, those 3 were their best players. Chan was very good in limited minutes. I thought he had a huge impact, especially that first little stint that he came on for.
Yeah, he's another one they've got up their sleeve still.
That first 10 minutes when he hit the ground running and was bumping people off and making good meters through the middle. Liero, Grant, Bloor, we mentioned those guys. They were good. Grant's attack seems a little bit stunted at the moment, but still getting through and good service to his outside men and making a 40 odd tackles that he does every week. So
I feel like it's I don't know if it's something to talk about here. I feel like it's a conscious choice to play 80. He's trying to limit what he's doing, thinking he has to get that extra 20 out. But you're right. You're 100% right.
That's fine if by the end of the year he's it's come Origin time or something and he starts to get that attacking feeling back.
We've got 2 weeks
till
Origin teams are discussed. He'll start tearing some teams apart.
Yeah, more than likely. Meany's been very good this year, and Coates. Those 2 guys
Coates
have been having
phenomenal this year.
Massive impact on games. But Meany seems to be a bit more. It goes unnoticed, but fuck, he's doing some work. He's running 150, 200 meters every game, making decent amount of tackles out there in the centers, and he's doing a pretty good job for one of the smaller centers in the comp.
And some real good scramble. He does a lot of cover tackle stuff that doesn't always get picked up on.
Yeah, and we mentioned Katoa. He was fantastic along with Jerome Hughes.
Absolutely. I'm going to treat this as Melbourne just getting through what they need to do to be in the top 4 at the end of the year, really, and still looking for that improvement from Roosters yet, but they'll beat enough teams, defence alone, I suppose, at this stage. I'm not
sure they will, to be honest. Some of these other teams are really improving their attack. So, but
it was interesting, actually, watching. Actually, I only saw the clip. I didn't watch it, but I saw they mentioned. They'll bag and brag up Brad Arthur on 360, and Gordon Tallis said, "What about Robbo's? Given that everyone keeps tipping them in the comp for the last 5 years and they haven't." And a lot of the mates went very quiet for a period there, which is quite funny. But it has to be said, we've keep tipping these blokes to win the comp, and they're not.
Yeah, and they barely made it in last year. I think they missed it a couple of years before. So
I wouldn't be putting money
the strength
on
of the team on paper.
That to make the 8 this year at this stage.
No, there's just that continuity in the halves has been a massive issue for a few years now. And when Cheese is good, it seems to flow a little bit better. But there's games where he gets completely shut down out of hooker as well, which doesn't help.
We'll wait for that Teddy medical retirement before they have a chance, I guess. Who are you giving 3-2-1 to? How have you seen this? It's a tricky one.
I thought Jerome Hughes was brilliant. I think it was 3 try assists and a try, all off his boot, or 2 try assists and a try. It's a big part of everything that happened that was good for them again. And still, for mine, probably the form halfback in the comp at the moment, right up there with DCE. We got Katoa with 2 points, and then I had either Bloor, Radley, or Manu for the 1.
Give it to Radley just because I decided I was going to wrap him today, so why not?
Very good.
The Dragons, first boil over of the round, biggest boil round perhaps, 30 over the Warriors, 12, and as big as the boil-over was, the fact that they just belted them out of the game was probably as big a shock for a period there through the middle. But what did the stats say first?
5 tries to 2, 3 out of 5 conversions for the Dragons, 2 out of 2 for the Warriors. 1 out of 1 penalty attempts and 1 out of 1 2-point field goal attempts right on half time there. Absolutely smoked it, Lomax from the Dragons. 16-6 at half time, 85% completion from the Dragons, 78% from the Warriors. 80 plus post contact meters for the Warriors, 5 line breaks to 3, 35 tackle busts from both teams, 4 offloads to 7, 1 forced dropout apiece, 317 tackles played, 347, 2 inside the 10s against, 2 intercepts from the Dragons, 9 errors to 10, 2 ruck infringements to 3, 1 inside the 10 to 0. I don't think I've seen as many intercepts to start a season for a long time, to be honest.
And a lot of them are
5
just
or
blokes
6
just
this year,
standing
this
in line.
week. Yeah, and we've constantly seen 2 or 3 every week since we've started this year. But I guess that's got something to do with that flat block plays to the edges, which seem to get picked apart a lot easier these days than it used to. Used to be super effective. It's not so effective these days.
Yeah.
But Hunt with 118 Supercoach points, Lomax with 82, Ravalawa with 80, and then Chance Nickel-Clockstad with 77.
You mentioned that dropout, and the minute that you realised it was Lomax, it felt like he was never going to miss. He's just having that year that he can do no wrong. But yeah,
apparently doesn't kick him in training, doesn't practice him, just knocks him over from 40 when they need him.
But yeah, what do you make this? Because after, I guess, 15 minutes, it did feel a bit like a fait accompli that Warriors were going to just march away with it, and that was it for them,
They
really.
had so much ball, and they were pressuring the Dragons so much in that first 15 that you mentioned. Yeah, they scored early. They looked like they were well on top. They were making good meters through the middle of the field. And then there was an error. I'm pretty sure there was an error on a try scoring movement where back rowers coughed up the ball where it looked like he might have gone in to score. And then the Dragons really muscled up. Their intensity just went through the roof there after about 15 to 20 minutes of this game. The likes of Jack DeBell and Fatala Mariner really got stuck into their work in the middle of the field, and they started pushing this Warriors pack backwards.
Yep.
They were really rolling through the middle of the field, up tempo. They started swinging the ball from side to side and probably pressured the outside backs from the Warriors more than anyone has this year. And the Warriors fell apart at different times out wide. Really didn't know how to shut down the likes of Ben Hunt when he was scheming, throwing short balls and long balls and grubbers and chips and all the rest of the stuff he was doing there. Lomax flying through. Him and AJ Brimson, they were 2 of the highlights from the weekend, with the just jumping straight over the top of the fullback, running through without a hand laid on them.
Yeah, different.
And probably running faster after they caught the ball than they did to get to the ball. It was fucking tremendous.
But he's now done that. He does it just about every game. Lomax.
He has so far this year.
Picks those pockets.
You just get him to that right position, and you've noticed a lot more with the jumpers this year. They're really trying to run the angled line across sort of the face of where the jumper is that's getting the ball. You'll see the likes of Mulatalo and Lomax, they'll come from the outside across the face of where the ball's coming down. So it leaves that the landing area a lot more open than sort of jumping directly at the defense. So they've got, an out option if they do get hold of the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that part of that is because a lot of those backs are happy to just sit and let them get the ball if they're coming straight and just bury them as soon as they land. So it's
they're hanging the ball up that little bit
whether
higher.
Whether it's got to do with fucking disruptors or whatever else as well, I don't know. But
it seems like a definite ploy to angle their run into the jump a lot more this year, which is paying dividends for different players. The Warriors seem to get frustrated in attack as well. They really rushed up on the likes of Tamari Martin, who was struggling there at times. They took away Ford's a lot of Jackson Ford's time when he was hitting those crash balls. He was basically getting hit as he was collecting the ball, and he spilled it a couple of times. Getting up in the face of the big forwards and not letting them get that rumble going through the middle of the field. Dragons were exceptional for a big part of this game. Once they got up and going, they just did not stop. There was no quit in them. It just kept coming all parts of the field. And when they get those big backs rolling and running at the halves and the centers of their opposition, they're pretty hard to slow down.
Absolutely. And there was a couple of games I noticed teams exceptionally good at. They just decide they're going to isolate one of those halves. We saw it in the Canberra game a little bit as well, and another game we'll get to. But they just decide they're going to, especially first half. Once they had their confidence attacking on that right side, they just kept peppering them. They saw the cracks and kept hammering at the door.
They scored that try. Was 5 minutes in, or a couple of minutes into the second half, which was that Lomax try that I mentioned, and it just seemed like the game was over.
Yeah,
did not feel like the Warriors had any chance of coming back into this game, and realistically, they didn't. I don't think they really fired another shot for the rest of the second half.
No, and just what was it, a consolation try in the last 5 minutes or so? There was about it. Those outside backs, you said, big, strong, Sully, Lomax, I guess, and then pushing Ravalawa back onto the other side. I think he's been in the left most of the year. They all looked quite happy to be back together. Sloan was fine. A nice 80-minute try there, without being super explosive a lot of the rest of the game, but got into it. But it was Ben Hunt pulling the strings along the way, which I thought was most impressive. And Jack DeBellin
absolutely.
Continues to just keep putting in the same work he does every week.
Yep. Yeah. Capewell, Barnett, and Berry were pretty good in this game, I thought. Johnson's kicking game was very good, but and he had a nice touch here and there, but did seem to get frustrated a little bit out of the game with them up in his face. Charles Nickel-Clockstad was very good, as was Tohu Harris and Fanua Blake. Harris and Fanua Blake were probably the best two, as well as Chance there chiming in from the back. Sele Little and Jack DeBellin, as you mentioned, all had very good games. So did Fatala Mariner. I thought he was one of their better ones. Eisenhuth just worked his backside out. I think the bloke made near 50 tackles. Only had 4 or 5 runs, but he was, every time that looked like there might be a part of a break in the middle, he was around someone's ankles or hanging onto the back of their jersey and going for a bit of a ride. But he's really turned into a really good worker for this Dragon
100%.
side.
Every week he does that real clean-up shit. You see him hanging on to someone, even if he doesn't get them all the way. He's hanging on to someone. If they are making half a break, he tries his ass off.
He just doesn't stop moving.
No,
just
that's right.
Continually moving towards the ball, which you don't see a lot of forwards continually do. And it was Lomax and Hunt. They were absolutely brilliant in this game. You could give 2 or 3, the 3 and the 2 points. Take your pick. I went with Hunt just because I thought he had a little bit more orchestrating of where they needed to be. His kicking game obviously had a big bearing on the game, but Lomax was brilliant as well. So,
yeah, let's go 3 Hunt, 2 Lomax, and 1 to Fanua Blake, or you want to go another Dragon here?
If you want to go Dragon, probably has to be Eisenhuth, but I also had Tohu Harris or Fanua Blake down for the 1.
Go with Tohu was good too. We'll go with Fanua Blake, 255 run meters.
Yep,
leading the way there, and then we headed to Darwin for the Friday main event. 44-16 at the Dolphins over the Parramatta Eels in one of the best attack. Let's not just start on the shitty defense, but one of the best attacking displays. I just feel like everything these Dolphins tried worked in the second half.
And it didn't just happen straight away either. Like, it took them, half an hour to probably get up and going.
Yep.
And really making an impact against this Parramatta side, which probably did come through fatigue, obviously. We both mentioned it. We'll get to it later on exactly what we think there. But, some of the work from these little guys, Marshall King, Plath, Oren Keeley, really tore the Parramatta middle apart. And considering they're half the size of some of these other blokes that they were running at, it's a bit of a worry, realistically. It's Parramatta 16, Dolphins 44, 3 tries to 9. 1 out of 3 conversions, played 4 out of 9, so it could have been fucking 56 or something if they kicked their goals. But 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for Parramatta. 8 out of 8. It was 8-4 at halftime. 2 Parramatta. 80% completion, played 72%. 438 plus running meters for the Dolphins. 5 line breaks to 9. 26 tackle busts to 31. 9 offloads to 14. 173 plus kick meters for the Dolphin side. Katoa had a freaking ripper game, actually. 316 tackles, played 302. 7 errors to 12. Dolphins made 12 errors. 3 penalties conceded to 5. 4 ruck infringements against Parramatta. 1 inside the 10 against the Dolphins. Bostock with 131 Supercoach points, Plath with 94, and Penasini with 89.
Oh, we may as well start with it, but it dawned on me about 5 minutes in the second half here, and we maybe a bit longer, maybe at the 50-minute mark. You
10 minutes, yeah.
you talked a few weeks about the Parramatta shirt grabbing and lack of intent in defence, and it was the same here. But it just maybe I realised why they're just not fit. If you watch every NRL team this year, which we do, I cannot think of a less fit team. And I know they're in Darwin, but what causes that shirt grabbing a few weeks ago is fatigue. Like at the end of the day,
Of course,
blokes getting tired. And if you go, well, look at what we just saw from St George, even what we've seen from, well, let's go work our way up. Tigers and Bulldogs. It seems they've come into the year and gone, well, if it's not the roster, it's just not this and that. We need to be as fit as everyone or fitter and work our asses off to try and compete in these games. And it doesn't feel like Parramatta doing that. And if they have, then they're not trying, which is worse.
Yeah, once they hit that fatigue level and start getting cut open in the middle of the field, it just seems to get worse and worse. The line speed gets even slower. Their effort becomes even less, and I don't blame Arthur for coming out and calling half his team part-time footballers in the press conference because they looked exactly like that in this game, and first grade footballers was probably a bit of an overstretched as well, to be honest. They look like part-time reserve graders, half of them.
Yeah. Which suggests that he sees exactly what we're talking about, but whether that's his fault or whatever's around him's fault or commitment fault.
But the fact that they were on top for half an hour.
Yeah.
Like they were well and truly moving through the motions. They were picking the Dolphins apart on the edges without really breaking them open, but they were poking their nose through. Brown was doing some nice stuff, cutting back on angles through the middle of the field and setting up some of his outside men. And it was 8-0, I'm pretty sure, at one point.
Yeah.
And they were well in control. And then it really started off the back of Jerry Marshall-King, really, to be honest. Like, there was a couple of times there where he had no right. There was one lazy marker, and he was beating 4 and 5 blokes and making 30 and 40 metres upfield.
Yeah.
And he had no right to do it. Most other teams would have shut him down after, that 10-metre run, but he was beating another 2 blokes and continuing down the field. You throw in Trey Fuller from fullback, who was really chiming in nicely off the back of any forward that stuck his nose through the line. He was on his shoulder waiting for an offload or a short pass at the line, and they really started to pull Parramatta apart, especially on that left edge to begin with, and then it just started happening all over the field. Realistically, there was this period of about half an hour where it didn't look like Parramatta could make a tackle.
No. What was it? It was 6 tries in 15 minutes or something. They scored all their
8
points.
8 tries in 25 minutes.
Yeah, 8 tries in 25 minutes.
8 of their 9 tries in 25 minutes.
Yeah, and they were back to back to back, and a lot of them, as you said, mirror image stuff. So it was just Marshall King waltzing through, one of the backs chiming in, and then someone else supporting.
Or a back rower poking
Max
his nose through with a short pass inside and outside, and or just a simple one-on-one with the likes of Tessie New looked like a superstar in this game.
He did.
Like he was bowling blokes over, running past them, stepping past them, just running straight over the top of them. Really, that obviously it was sweltering hot up there, and doesn't lend itself to a bigger forward pack. But
That's
to
true.
disintegrate as badly as they did in the space of 5 minutes, like they went from holding Dolphins pretty comfortably to two breaks from dummy half later, and they just completely shot to shit.
Yep.
They're getting rolled over in the middle. Even the bigger forwards, like Nichols, were making 15, 20 metres a run through the middle. Bromwich was joining him, and they were just waltzing down the middle of the field, and Parramatta just running backwards for the next 25 minutes.
We talked, or just probably the last thing to say about really kicking the shit out of Parra, but my narrative has been about the Dolphins' age, and now they're rolling out the young blokes. We saw Trey Fuller, Max Plath start in this game. Josh Kerr's a little younger, but has come up and worked hard. They've taped Ray Stone back together.
Oren Keeley was another one.
Oren Keeley's coming through, and then you've obviously got Flegler in the wings and whoever else. Parramatta, though, if you look at Parramatta's pack, as much as I've got all the respect in the world for a lot of them, RCG, Paulo, Offrengawe, I'm not sure how old Lane is, I think he's a bit younger, but they're all, if not 30, close enough.
Lane's 25, 26.
Yeah, but the others are 30.
He can be as lazy as fuck sometimes,
Yeah.
Lane. Like, he got decent Supercoach points in this one because he scored a try early and had a couple of nice runs in that first 25-minute period, but he was barely seen after that.
No, he doesn't have
He was playing centre for most of this game.
In Supercoach pylons, he doesn't have a strong base. I know because, like everyone else, I bought him at the start of the year. And
it was about 3 games ago, I think he scored 60 odd in base. Like, he can do it.
Yeah.
But the bloke is dead set, goes out and just sits in the centres for big parts of games.
Well,
Doesn't bother trying to get
involved. He had that
involved.
one breakout year, and before that, there was a lot of Para fans, and no one hates Parramatta more than Parramatta fans, that spoke to me that were quite critical of him for the longest time. So,
but he just runs that flat line off Dylan Brown's left hip, and that's about it. You don't see him changing angles and ducking back inside, trying to link up with anybody back through the middle. You don't see him go in and take tough runs in the middle when he knows the rest of his blokes are gassed either. Like,
no, you'll
see some of these other second rowers go out of their way to go and take those hit-ups in the middle.
It's almost like his one job is to wait for Dylan Brown to put the ball in his hands.
Short ball and score a try.
Yeah. Anyway, the Dolphins, that's enough of Parramatta because what else we can talk about, really?
Just the excitement and the energy in this Dolphins team once they started getting up and going, and you just saw it every time they were scoring. There was 25 blokes there. The bench was emptying out, and they were all slapping each other on the back and yahooing and jumping over the top of people. It's fantastic to see, and it was classic footy as well. It wasn't, stupid ball movement and all that kind of stuff that tore these guys apart. It was really smart, angled running into space, and then couple of short balls, and it was all over. They were gone.
Yeah, and we've touched on Marshall King, but he was the ringleader there. I thought Max Plath probably had his best first grade game. Really announced himself. He's basically Ray Stone 5 years younger with all his limbs still attached.
A little bit more muscle
and a little bit broader, but reminds me a lot of when Ray Stone was at Parramatta and used to come off the bench and work really hard. Similar sort of setup, and obviously Ray Stone still exists here, which is always nice. Josh Kerr
really released some of the outside backs nicely as well. So some really nice flat, sort of half cutout balls to hit the centres and the wingers to get them down the sideline.
Speaking of centres and wingers, Bostock on a tear now as well. Lovely finisher, big lanky tackle buster. Assume he's fit. I think he had a bit of a niggle there at some point in the back end of this game, but exciting first grade winger. Just add to the list.
Yeah, been named again. There's some muscle for him to still put on as well, I would imagine. So he's probably going to become an even more hardworking ball carrier at some point in his career. But nice and tall, got a good jump on him, can climb over people in that contest with the kicks. Natural footwork and good acceleration. So he's definitely a future winger in waiting. He'll be right up there, I would imagine. And when you get games like this where the ball just seems to bounce your way a couple of times and you get yourself a hat trick, it's a pretty good day out.
Definitely. And yeah, as we briefly touched on Trey Fuller too, but nearly 200 run meters, great support play. I don't know how he managed to kick that with the wrong foot to set up that last try, which was impressive to watch. But as you said, when the ball's bouncing your way, you take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just a pretty effort to watch, I'd say,
Yeah, once that attack got up and going, and obviously it was obvious Parramatta were never going to turn the tide of momentum there. They were just absolutely enjoying every minute of that 25 minutes, half an hour. I thought Paulo and Hopgood did a decent job in the middle. Brown was okay early, and so was Lane, but they really went missing after that sort of 20-minute, half an hour period in that first half. Who else did Penasini was their best by a fair way. Didn't get a whole heap of chances, but when he did early, he was again really, really strong ball runner. Keeley and Nichols were good in the middle. The Oren Keeley and Nichols good in short stints. You mentioned Kerr. Aiken, I thought, had quite a good game, as well as Katoa. Aiken's just another one of those guys that just doesn't stop working, doesn't stop moving, constantly in there to clean up the shit. And occasionally latch onto a good ball and run away downfield.
And he's just always in and about those bombs as well.
Yeah,
It'd be
true.
nice on occasion if a few passed it to him, but yeah, he's always there and thereabouts too. Yeah, very easy, very good underrated player.
Yeah, we mentioned Fuller and Tessie New. They had good impact when they called upon. Bostock, Jeremy Marshall-King, and Plath were awesome, and they were probably the three best, I thought.
Absolutely. So, which way are you going to split them up in the 3-2-1s?
Oh, Jeremy Marshall-King had the biggest impact, I thought.
Yep.
Bostock gets the glory of the hat trick and all the Supercoach points, but Jeremy Marshall-King's not on the field. This is a completely different game. 3 points to him. Bostock with the 2. And then I had Plath, maybe Fuller, but I think you got to give it to Plath.
Give it to
for the
Plath.
one.
I liked what I saw there. Saturday afternoon, kicked off at Bathurst, 22-6. Panthers over the Tigers in I wouldn't say flattered Panthers, but a closer game than it perhaps suggests. Barn, what did the stats say?
Yeah, we had 4 tries to 1, 3 out of 4 conversions, 1 out of 1 for the Tigers. 10-6 at halftime, 86% completion, played 71%. 115 plus post-contact meters for the Tigers, 4 line breaks to 3. 42 tackle busts, played 36, 8 offloads to 11. 153 plus kicking meters to Penrith, 1 forced dropout to the Tigers. 383 tackles, played 343. 8 errors to 15, 4 penalties conceded to 1. 2 ruck infringements against the Tigers, 1 inside the 10 for both teams. Zayo with 90 Supercoach points, Edwards with 89, and Bateman with 87.
What do you make of all this?
It was a pretty competitive first half. Agree with Benji. How that wasn't a sin bin, I've got no idea. Especially when you listen to the bunker say he's fallen and reached his arm out and made contact with a player who's in support, who probably catches that ball and goes very close to scoring a try.
Yes.
And he takes his legs out and he doesn't get anywhere near the ball. And the ball hits the ground too. I'm pretty sure it was because the pass was meant for the bloke who's been ankle tapped.
Exactly. And that was a frustrating. I actually thought Tigers were a better team for the first 20 minutes, at least the field position-wise, and that would have been 12-0. Worst case, 13 on 12, and should have been, and you never know from there. But the worst thing about it was he blew a penalty for Penrith as a result. It had to be challenged before they...
Yeah, the penalty went back to the Tigers.
Back the other way.
And it's still, if that's not a professional foul, what is it?
Well, if it's not a professional foul, it should have been a penalty try, to be honest. But
I understand if he trips over and falls on his legs or something, but to reach out and, ankle tap the bloke.
Yeah, exactly. There were two, that one, and then they went upfield. Appy had his head taken off by Liam Martin when Appy was called a disruptor last week, which cost us a try. No mention of disruptor. They went and scored with the 2-man, 3-man overlap, and Penrith were off to the races after that. That's my whinging out of the way. Overall, I thought the Tigers' effort was solid enough. Playing against the best team and that sort of thing. I didn't have too many issues.
They had the right game plan. They had the early shifts at the start of the match.
Well, actually, the other issue is one of the wingers there that, they had him stripped on 2 or 3 other occasions, and he was either in the line or behind the line or nowhere near the line, and the ball went into touch when it could have been, just to pick a name, say a Josh Adokar, probably catches it, runs away and scores.
A certain Staines, was it?
It was Staines on all those occasions, yes.
Yeah, a bit of a shocker again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the young
know what he offers this team. Like I said, back in the day, he was quite quick, at least felt quick, but he doesn't have any lightning pace, and he's not particularly huge.
It doesn't, seems to be in the wrong position more often than he's in the right position.
But anyway, that's my whinging. Go and talk about the footy.
Pretty tough, tense affair, really, for a decent amount of time in this game. Fair chunk of it until basically the back end of the game, and Penrith really got sort of going there for a 10 or 15 minute period where they started to get that roll in the middle of the field, and Yo and Edwards took control and put on some points. But as you mentioned, it could have been 12-6 at halftime, could have been 12-0 at halftime, could have been 18-6, something along those lines if everything goes the other way, and could have been a different game, but. The Tigers' defensive speed was really good up until probably 20 minutes to go.
Yeah.
the speed of defensive line really slowed down, which really helped Yo take control in the middle of the field there. He was basically playing 7 in the line, so he's playing a hybrid 13-7 role again, which he loves to do, and it paid dividends. He was hitting Luai was jumping around the field again. He's been really quite involved since Cleary's been gone, without sort of tearing teams apart and breaking holes in lines. He's been in the right position, and he's made the right decision to straighten the attack up, or rather play field position rather than try to do anything stupid with the football. He's been a little bit more controlled in the last couple of weeks, which I've enjoyed to watch. Edwards again was just brilliant. Bloke's in the right position 95% of the time. Always chiming in on any attacking play, and adds heaps to that wraparound play, or even the ball movement shifting from especially left to right, but can be involved on both sides of the field.
I know it's a cliche about how much he improved over the last few years, but I don't think there's a more improved ball player that I can think of from where he's come from. Like his passes always hit the mark. He's got a couple of different variations where he can now throw that Gutho rainbow ball if he needs to, but he always hits that mark when he chimes in that right side sweep play, and makes Taruva look $1 million when he does.
Absolutely, and again, Taruva look fantastic finishing out in that right corner. 2 of the Penrith tries probably came off pretty poor one-on-one efforts too, realistically.
Yeah. And that was
the Alamotti try in the corner where he just bumped through a couple of them and charged over to score in the corner, and then Fisher Harris, there was a massive run. Like it would have been hard to stop one-on-one for anyone realistically, but the way he was swung around and slingshot out of the tackle, it just propelled his momentum towards the post and crashed over there. Which, if those one-on-one tackles were a bit better, they probably stopped both of those tries as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they don't score a couple of tackles later, but
No, I agree. I just sort of put that down to, as you said, once that line, I think it was fatigue at the end of the day, but having just bagged Para for it. But this was, a more competitive game. I think their heads essentially dropped once Alamotti got away from that one-on-one, and then it was, an uglier watch there.
Both teams probably lacked a little bit of polish. Could have been a lot more points scored in this game with, as you mentioned before, tries, balls going in front of people, behind people, or just somebody not being in the right position at the right time to latch onto a ball and score. It could have been a lot closer in the finish, I think, especially if those one-on-one tackles have been made. The halves and Buller had decent games for the Tigers. Stefano, again, was very strong, as was Fainu coming off the bench. He's really making himself a mark for a really good back rower. Papali'i was fantastic, and Bateman probably had his best game that he's had for a while now. He was tremendous in this one, set up a try, and was constantly working back through the middle of the field.
Yeah, definitely. Just looking at Papi, he made 47 tackles. He did. I think he missed. He was the one that missed. He might have missed both of them actually that led to tries. But he missed Fish. I can't remember who. It was Caesar or him that fell off.
Alamotti. Yeah.
But anyway, you mentioned Isaiah. The Penrith back row got through enough work. I actually thought for the week for Fish Harris had. He was really, really good in this game.
Yeah, he was tremendous. The back 5 were awesome again. They just get through that. It's huge amounts of work, which makes the rest of the team's life so much easier. The halves were good without being tremendous. Tago to River were standouts of the back 5. Sorensen had a pretty tough game on that left edge as well. I thought he was quite good for Penrith. Fisher Harris was brilliant, but it was Yohan Edwards, as I already mentioned, best on ground.
Yeah, go with Edwards for 3, 2 to Yo, and 1 to you can either go Bateman or Fish.
They were the 2 I've got here.
You picked there, Barn.
I'll give it to Bateman on a losing side.
Right. Well, apart from my one eye, where do you think Tigers have headed then? These next couple of ones are just worth mentioning in terms of this team, the Bulldogs, the Knights. I'm just interested to get your thoughts where they're at. But Tigers, both these teams, given Penrith are the best in the comp, just doing enough without Cleary for the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Just sort of they hit their KPIs, if you want to call it that. 80% of the time, and they're a little bit behind the mark at the moment, obviously without Cleary there, who just adds so many different attacking variants when they get in close to that attacking area. But they've got a long way to go. Penrith, they're obviously expected to be at the top, the very pointy end at the end of the season. Tigers, I think, are still missing probably one young big body in the middle. See the likes of Fainu or Stefano come through would be a tremendous asset to the Tigers.
Yeah,
a little bit more leg speed and power through the middle of the field, and they're still working on combinations. You've got a kid there that's played 3 games. You've got obviously Caesar, who's in and around. He's been back for a little while now, but he's still going to need another 5 or 10 weeks to really polish up and get back to what his best performances will be going forward. Appy was a bit quiet in this game. If he was at his best, it might be a little bit different.
I thought the battle between him and Kenny was actually really good. We didn't mention either of them, but there was an interesting running battle there. They both had.
Kenny made a point of going out of his way to try and put shots on Appy every time he ran the ball, which was a big part of that. And he was joined with I thought Yo and Martin really went out of their way to try and slow down Appy as well. Whenever he sort of got close to him, they tried to, put that extra squeeze on him and spend that bit of extra time on top of him in a tackle and do all that shit that you do. Add a bit of
and obviously
extra
going
body
into this
weight
game,
to make him uncomfortable.
That would have been the chief discussion, that knowing him, stop him and the rest will look after itself in a lot of ways. Yep.
And I've mentioned Kenny. His service has become a lot better, especially this start of this season. He's you're not seeing those loopy, sloppy balls out to that 2-man cutout to a half. It's generally been a lot flatter, and it's getting there in a much better time than it was this time last year. I'd like to see him run a little bit more, but that's not the Penrith way that they're set up to play. So he's doing his job, and he's probably close to one of the best defensive hookers in the game as well at the moment.
Well, at the end of the day, he tackles like a lock, doesn't he? He hits people. So, what was this game? 34-30, Seagulls and Titans. They scored, I think it was 8 tries in the first half, then 2 in the second, and then shut up shop for the rest of the game. But stats, Barn, and have at it.
Titans were still pushing, but they just couldn't make it click. Titans 30, Manly 34, 5 tries to 6, 5 out of 5 conversions played, 5 out of 6. 24-22 at halftime in favour of the Titans. 81% completion, played 72%. 4 line breaks to 5, 26 tackle busts to 17. You don't often see Manly make 17 tackle busts. 9 offloads to 3, 305 tackles played, 292, 11 errors apiece, 3 penalties conceded to 4, 1 ruck infringement to 2, 1 inside the 10 against the Titans. Saab with 96 Supercoach points for Fafita and Tom Trbojevic, both with 86. Titans are doing very well at doing all the, the statistical stuff on the sheet. Their completions are pretty good. Their missed tackles aren't horrible. But when they do make those missed tackles, they make them, and it's basically walkover tries.
Yeah.
When they do get it wrong, they get it massively wrong. But Des has gone a bit of a way to cleaning up, that constant mistakes that they used to portray every weekend. It's just another one of these games where errors and penalties just swung the momentum massively from one side to the other. It was felt like it was every 10 minutes. Yeah. Like basically, Manly were flying for the first 10 minutes of the game and then just sat back and went, okay, it's your turn now. And then the Titans went for 10.
It was literally last try one, wasn't it? It just was.
And then Manly went for 10.
Yeah.
And the Titans would be pretty disappointed, I think, because there was a couple of tries here from the Manly side that really shouldn't have been scored, and it was off the back of some pretty poor efforts from the Titans that led in a couple of those tries. Both attacks got last 20 minutes, gas tanks were low. Both teams were pretty tired. They both were really panicked and looking for points and throwing the ball around a fair bit. And it just turned into an absolute shit fight for the last 20 minutes of this game. There was balls hitting the ground and going out the back behind people, and throwing penalties and errors galore in that last 20 minutes. A lot more grit and effort from the Titans, which apart from some of the massive holes out out in the defensive line, out in the centres, would be pleasing some of the Titans fans. I'm not sure how pleased you could be as a Titan fan, but they were a lot more direct at the start of the game, which I think Boyd helped a bit. He was really making a point of running the ball into the line and trying to distribute in there. Foran was brilliant at the start of the game, but sort of went missing after that sort of first try assist. But for everything Tanner Boyd did well, he ended up giving a try assist to Manly.
Yeah.
He's throwing a cutout ball straight to Cooler, probably close to the quickest bloke on the field, and nobody was ever going to get near him.
Yeah.
And he runs 60 metres down the other end of the field. When they were in attack and in a good position to actually take the lead again, I think it was. They may have actually still been in the lead at that point. And then Cooler runs down the other end and scores. Bullymore under the post, which I'm pretty sure was the last try of the game.
Yeah,
that was just soft as. There was two blokes there that both just got knocked back 5 metres, and he plunges over and scores under the post, and they lose the game from it. Like it's that kind of shit that keeps losing the Titans games, even in the last 2 weeks where they've been better. It's just they clock off for 5 minutes and they get punished badly for it.
Well, a lot of the times it's just simply, as you said, it's just them simply missing. Who was it? It wasn't Sammy didn't play. Kelly on that just missed Tommy to start the second half, and he walked in. Stuff like that, like as you said, the cutout pass and then the soft try. Then so I say they're close, but at least they're scoring points, which they haven't been doing.
They probably go close to winning, and you take those 3 tries out. It's a completely different game, isn't it?
Exactly right. AJ better at fullback. And
he tremendous at fullback. Limited opportunities. Like they didn't get him involved as much as they probably should have. But obviously the leap over the top of the fullback there to score. And some really nice touches. He combined in the centres a couple of times, jumped into the line and caused some real problems out wide. So I think that it's his position. It always has been for mine. And I think even if Jaden Campbell comes back into this side, I think he has to play 14, or they have to try and squeeze him into the halves.
Yeah.
I know they don't want to defend him there, but I think they've just taken so much away from their attack.
You mentioned Foran. Maybe it's time he needs to play 14.
Possibly.
And just try and get him on, get 60 minutes out of him at the back end. Whether
play a bit of hooker, jump into
and then can cover either of them, roam around, maybe tuck into a lock position if he has to. But you're right, because he can gas out a little bit in games, and maybe if they can nurse him through and bring him on from 25 minutes on or whatever it might be, maybe that's a better way to do it. Fafita again had damaging touches at the time.
Yeah. He's now starting, I'm pretty sure, this week. So
yeah,
if you're thinking about getting him in your super coach, probably time now to just go all in on him. I think he's got a slight price drop, maybe depending on how well he goes this week, but he's not going to drop much more than what he's at now. So it'd be the time to get him now.
I should have thought about him today because all the talk about Fish leaving, now got this bunch of money. I wonder if Penrith reach out with him. He's got the clause at the end of the year.
You never know. Around 10, I think it even comes in.
Yeah, I wonder if they got a bit out of TPJ a couple of years ago. I wonder if he's someone that would be very, very scary put into that Penrith system.
Yeah, well, he's in much better form at the moment than TPJ was at the time he went to Penrith. So who knows? I thought Mo was much better this game. Had a decent game. As did Fermor and Jolliffe. Fafita was great, as you mentioned. He was brilliant. And Boyd was mostly pretty good, apart from obviously I mentioned the cutout pass that ended up in a try for Manly. Waddell again had a good game. I have to say it because I've spent 5 years bagging the bloke as a walking billboard out there when he was playing for the Bulldogs. But he's been fantastic here. Lodge and Bullymore were good. Jake just, I don't know how that bloke can walk off the field some games realistically. Like the bloke makes 50 to 60 tackles every week, chucks in 10 runs in through the middle, and then plays a bit of halfback to go with it. Like it's just constantly on the ball. Olakau'atu was brilliant again, busting tackles and causing all sorts of problems out there. And then the slick blokes, the Ferraris at the back, Tom and Saab really finished well and put the game away for Manly. I really expected them to be a lot more clinical than they were, but
Sometimes you just get
what
dragged
happened?
into what everyone's doing, don't you?
Yeah, I
And
think
play
so.
their game.
You do see it a fair bit.
Yeah,
So.
you go right away from what you're doing, and suddenly it's jungle ball or whatever it might be. And I guess we'll wait and see on both these teams. Interesting. They've both got interesting matchups this week. How are you going to do points here, Barn? Who do you like?
I think Tom had the biggest impact, realistically.
Yep.
Set up, scored a try, scored 2 tries, set up another try, set up a couple of line breaks as well, which got guys on their way to getting down the other end of the field. Saab had a brilliant game on his return. I know he's just doing what good wingers do, but he did it extremely well and at pace, which most people can't handle. And then I either had Jake Fafita or Ola Kawatu.
Give it to Fafita.
Yep.
Give it to Fafita in this one. And then the main event on Saturday, Canberra completely blown away for, again, a period of about 20 minutes there to kick off, to wrap up that the first half before the rain came in that Brisbane game. 34-10 was the final score. What did the stats say?
6 tries to 2, 5 out of 6 conversions, played 1 out of 2, 28-0 at halftime, 73% completion, played 72%, 188 plus running meters and 83 plus post-contact meters. For the Brisbane side, 7 line breaks to 2, 36 tackle busts to 28, 3 offloads to 7 for the Raiders. 1 forced drop out apiece, 342 tackles played, 346. 4 intercepts from the Raiders, which I think 2 of their tries came from them too, to be honest, didn't they? 15 errors to 13. 1 penalty conceded to 2, 2 ruck infringements to 1, and 2 inside the 10 against the Broncos side. Reece Walsh with 110 Supercoach points, Ezra Mann with 95, Cobbo with 82, and then you had another Brisbane player before you got to Sasagi from the Raiders side on 79. And I don't know how he got anywhere near 79 points. I think I'm pretty sure he scored a try, but the bloke dead set looked like he dropped the ball every time they passed it to him. Once Fogarty left the field. So.
I was shocked by that myself. The ones that did make sense, so Reece Walsh seems to be good at football.
Not bad. Got a bit of pace. Can pass the football.
Well, this was another game where it seemed at times they went out their way to isolate Strange in that first half, and they just managed to get Walsh one-on-one with him, and he wasn't stopping him on a couple of occasions.
Took away his attack as well. It was very clever, actually.
Yeah,
Broncos.
Really put it on him. And Ricky ran over. Was it him? Ricky ran over as well. Might have been a pair closer.
Was on the other side, was he?
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, it would have been the same spot.
Yeah, but very, very well. Just those flashes of Reece, Reece Lightning was enough to get me excited. Anyway, what do you make of Brisbane's performance overall?
Ezra's becoming probably one of the best best halves in support play going around. To be honest, he's just always there. Yeah. Whenever a ball's laying on the ground or something bounces a different direction, he's in and around.
And as we've said, he's just so quick over that 20 metres that if he gets that half a broken field, he'll beat whoever's in front of him, and then after that doesn't matter.
Very close game for 10 minutes. Raiders seem to have the ascendancy to begin with. They were a forearm swipe away from a Hudson Young try to score the first try of the match.
Yeah, fun fact on that was the only one I needed from a multi. Just while I think of it, it's only 1,500. Congratulations to Flobs. He landed 3 this weekend, 3 in consecutive games.
Yeah, over $100 returns, a couple $100 returns.
500, 400, and 250 or something they were. So,
that's a good weekend. Is that why he was at the pub?
Yeah, that's why I was at the pub. So I did score a Jaeger bomb or 2 out of it, so at least that was something.
Congratulations, Flobs. Well done.
And in the Titans one, which was the third of it, given he was on such a tear, it was the first 4 tries of the game too. It was unbelievable. Never seen anything like it. Meanwhile, here I am finding vodka in my fridge.
I was a Garrick try away from 1,000 to 1 multi in that game as well, to be honest. A 6-leg anytime try scorer multi. And then Garrick got the ball off a tap back and dropped the fucking thing 1 meter out from the line. And I lost my shit for about 5 minutes. But what do you do? After that first 10 minutes, it was 2 different teams on 2 different levels. It just looked like a reserve grade basically playing the first graders in a contested training session for a big part of this game. Jock Madden's kicking game was a massive part of this game.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, he put up some really good, really nice bombs and absolutely terrified the poor fullback there from the Raiders for this first half. Balls were swinging around all over the place. You throw the rain in there on top of it, and it seemed like just about every second time that he was under the ball, he was hit within about 5 seconds of catching the thing and getting absolutely poleaxed.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't getting hit as soon as he catches it, he's running it fucking dead straight at Hetherington and getting absolutely cleaned
inflicted
up.
murder on him. Poor kid. He had apart from the death there in the second half, 4 errors.
Great attitude though.
Yeah, he got up and he ran again. 4 errors, 3 handling errors, missed 3 tackles and made none for a debut for Chevy. It was his first game, so I am not going to give him a pot plan out of
his second game. Didn't he play the week before? Anyway,
whatever. I'll give him one more chance and then I'll pot plan him next week.
Yeah, so missed that the first try of the Raiders, and it could have been a little bit different, but their defensive line just was standing still for big parts of it, especially when the ball got out wide to your Mams and your Reece Walshes and Cobbos, and it was like they were just standing back waiting for the opposition. They're too worried about whether getting beaten with footwork or pace on either on the inside or outside shoulder, so they sort of froze and just tried to stand as close to each other as they could, and then let Brisbane basically do whatever they want. Cobbo tried to run over the top of him. Walsh was just running around him, stepping back in. But that first try, that was another piece of Reece Walsh brilliance where he just absolutely put the jets on, went around someone, footwork back through the middle of the field and just carved in between 4 and 5 Raiders that were just left grabbing at thin air as he ran past and scored that first try. He's a super exciting football player, and you can understand why you get so much attention out of,
Oh, of course.
Not the rusted on fans. He's just that highlight reel that everyone absolutely loves, whether you're a rusted on fan or new to the game. It's just so much excitement out of him. I mentioned Madden's kicking, good long kicking as well. So he's doing a job there and probably putting his name up as one of these guys that might end up as a fallback option for some of these other clubs going forward, whether Brisbane are willing to let him go or not. But there's some clubs out there that say this Canberra side that might be worth reaching out for a loan for the rest of the season or trying to get him across now. But he was quite good, I thought. Mam and Walters did some really nice stuff with some short kicking in around the line as well. Just scored some nice tries there.
Yeah, nice grubber for himself, young Billy.
Yeah, we mentioned Stewart, who wasn't exactly happy about what was going on there. The Broncos sort of went a bit soft in the second half and didn't really hammer home their advantages the way they could have. But Canberra's season now has gone from being competitive to they're in a world of hurt. I know they've got a forward pack that's going to match it and will keep them in games. But without that kicking game that they've been so reliant on early in this season, those concerns I had at the start of the season about where points are going to come from are now just exemplified massively, I think.
I couldn't agree more. Because even when nothing's doing, Fogarty was the one coming up, still able to find a kick to a Hudson Young or a grubber to a post or something, and it's a big drop-off now.
A lot of their good stuff, even through the ball playing, was coming off him as well.
Yes,
just getting the ball to the right players at the right time, getting him in one-on-one situations and that kind of stuff. So a bit of a worry. Corey Oates had a better night. He had a decent game, which was good. I don't think he dropped one. Was pretty safe back under that high ball. Tomoko and Chris were pretty decent as well. I thought they did some decent stuff, but they were outclassed realistically. Savage and Young had pretty good games as well. Mariota was fantastic. He's getting better week in, week out, that young fella coming off the bench. I think he's probably not far away from a starting spot on an edge, to be honest, now that old mate's out. I know they keep putting him in the number 12, but they keep starting him off the bench. So I don't know what's going on there. But Papali'i and Tapane were their best again, like just about every other week. They're fantastic. Get through so much work in the middle of the field. Mentioned Madden. Jensen had a good game as well, I thought. Willison was really good in limited times again off the bench. He has a good impact when he comes onto the field. Baker had one of his better games for the Broncos. Mentioned Cobbo, Mam, Ricky were all fantastic, but it was those two blokes that we mention every week when they're in the team.
Who's
it was
that?
Carrigan
Paddy
and it was Reece Walsh.
Yep. Led the tackle count again, Carrigan, and 200+ meters just in case. And
A hit up every time they touch the ball. Every set he's taking a hit up, and half the time he's offloading or he's making 15 meters and dragging blokes with him. It's just ridiculous.
He's an absolute superstar of the game. Let's give 3 to Reece, 2 to Carrigan. One's a good
Probably
question.
Mam or Cobbo.
Mam, Cobbo. Actually, Nelly was going to give it to Billy Walters, actually. But I'm happy for Mam. And then Sunday kicked off 36-12. As we said, we felt it might be coming, but 36-12. Bulldogs put the Knights completely to the sword. You can do the stats and then we can bag Newcastle.
6 tries to 2, 6 out of 6 conversions played, 2 out of 2, 18-6 at halftime to the Dogs, 66% completion for the Bulldogs. Dusted like that with 66% completion. 73% for the Knights, 302 plus running meters and 62 plus post contact meters for the Bulldogs. 7 line breaks to 3, 19 tackle busts to 35, 9 offloads to 10. 150 plus kicking meters as well for the Bulldogs. 4 dropouts to 1. A 40-20 for the Bulldogs. 317 tackles played, 352. 14 errors to 12. 6 penalties conceded to 2. 4 ruck infringements to 2. And 1 inside the 10 to 0. Both teams had a sin bin back end of the game. Carraz with 101 Supercoach points. Kai Pearce-Paul with 84. And Reid Mahoney with 84.
Geez, Connor Tracy's a good fullback. Fuck, he's a good fullback.
That's all right.
Let's just get Newcastle out of the way. Isn't confidence a wonderful thing? And you mentioned earlier about the players for the Dragons jumping up and down and getting involved. The Dolphins jumping up and down, getting involved. So it's similar to the Dragons, and you saw it here just how the energy sort of swept the Dogs with it. And this is where Newcastle were last year, riding that wave. They just don't have it this year. There's just no. They felt like there was no line speed, no intensity. You had Ponga hopping down on one leg, and as a result, no one actually else knew what they were going to do to win this game, it felt like. They just sort of existed for 80 minutes, and Bulldogs ran rings around them.
Well, that back end of last year, that 10 game run or whatever it was to really cement themselves in the top 8, Dominic Young had a big part to do with that.
Yeah.
Whether it was just kick to him and you climb above someone and score a try, or if the opposition was on the back foot, they would just shift it to him as fast as they possibly could.
Yeah.
They knew he had the speed to get down a sideline and really, make 30, 40 meters and cause problems. That's not happening this year. There's barely anything going to the right. Gagai was in career best form last year, still been quite good, but the ball's not getting out there. So that's got obviously coming from your halves that aren't shifting the ball that way. Ponga's been on one leg for a week and a half and now gone for 12 weeks. So that'll be interesting what they come up with there. They need someone who's a ball playing fullback, realistically, because there's not a lot of it coming out of their middle. So I don't know what they do there, but that's going to be a big question answered.
I think I haven't actually, to be honest, I have to look at the teams, but I think it's Armstrong playing there.
Okay.
Who's on a bit of a tear in reserve grade, but we've seen lots of blokes on reserve grade tears. It doesn't necessarily translate.
Absolutely, and he'll be under massive amounts of pressure because teams will target him as soon as he steps onto the field. But and that left edge is not quite the same either. Bradman Best still yet to hit his top potential. Marzu's been in and out. There was injury a couple of weeks. Not making anywhere the meters as he was last year. He was punching through 200, 250 meters pretty much every game, and he was pretty quiet in this one, and has been quiet in other games. So that potency in their backline is nowhere near where it was last year. Add to that some lazy forwards and a forward pack that won't fight back. They've either got it going their way and they just continue to roll with it, but as soon as someone starts to put it over the top of them, they just seem to just go with the motions.
Yeah, well, I've talked about how the Sophides looked fatigued, but I've just realised they're just not with us. They're not with us anymore. Simple as that.
Jacob has a decent game every now and then, but Daniel's fallen off a cliff.
They well, just looking at now, Marzu 148 run meters, Bradman Best 107. No one else cracked 90 in the whole Newcastle team. So, I mean, as you say, last year Marzu was doing. You throw 220 from
Young as well, getting up near the 200s.
Yeah, 150 from Gay Guy, and then Marzu 200. It's a big difference. Conversely, lots of meters for this Bulldogs team, and their attack looked pretty switched on. And they've just been doing the same shape they've been doing all year, but it's just starting to work. I think Connor Tracy now just gives them that directness they haven't had, which is what his strength was when he left the Sharks. But big, strong, just is the one that's going to dig into the line and strong enough to take blokes with him and pop a ball out to a winger or open up. He's the one that's now going to open the door for Crichton, I think.
Absolutely. Burton's decided
and Burton
that the pass is coming a lot quicker to kick out than it was previously.
Yeah.
It was sort of an afterthought previously. Now it's give it to the big bloke and let him do his magic, and he's in great form. With some of his subtlety as well, whereas a lot of his stuff is his charges over blokes or breaks tackles and gets into the backfield with an offload. He's playing some really nice short stuff as well to the likes of Zeri and Adokar to get them unlocked and away and down that left-hand edge, and they just got pace to burn. They're hard to get, hard for anyone to catch if they get on your outside. So I don't know if teams have to start trying to maybe defend the Bulldogs a bit differently, which is probably would be what I would be doing, and trying to stack maybe a little bit closer to the sideline and working back towards the likes of Kikau and Burton and pressuring them from the outside in. But that's just something that I've thought about recently, the way to try and maybe change up the way they're attacking down there. But that also relies on having someone to cover and come across and try to get Josh Adokar if he does get released down that sideline. So something that you might see a few teams try to evolve with the way they shut down these Bulldogs team, but they're getting better week after week. Crichton now is starting to get a few more touches, get involved. He's playing a bit of that sweep play as well on both, sort of pop up on both sides of the field occasionally in this game, and with some nice little ball play to put other people away. He's not creating as much for himself as he used to at the Panthers, but he is providing a bit of stuff for some other people as well. And got his first try, I think, for the year, which was good to see for the Dogs in this one. But they just shifted down that both edges really and crucified Newcastle. They couldn't hold them in the middle. They've now got a pretty good 1-2 punch there with Sam Hughes and Maxi King. One taking time off the other, but they do, they both come in, do exactly the same role. Good hit ups through the middle and pretty staunch defence. Add a couple of different pieces if blokes are going well around them, and the forward pack's going a lot better than I thought it would.
Yeah, just I guess what you get from Curran, someone you can trust. Yeah. Obviously, we've talked about Kickow, and the other guys just doing their job, I suppose. Hayward and who have I missed there? Salmon, just doing.
Hayward's an underrated defender.
Yeah,
he's a very good defender for a backup hooker.
They're interesting finds, and they're young people, but they are adding size to this pack, which is what the concern was.
Yeah, they obviously still would really like another big body in the middle of the field, and I don't know, there's probably someone in the background, but that'd probably be their biggest thing that they'd be looking for in the off season is another power forward to put into that pack.
What'd you make of Drew Hutchinson?
A little bit better, but again, not overly great. It does seem
a little
bit
more just early
decision.
shoveling on rather than trying to do anything else. Quite a bit of more early ball to Burton, more than anything really.
He seems to get into his own head a little bit, and if he makes an error, he quickly makes another one not long afterwards. Kicking game is average, but I don't know. You can't bag them when they put a team away like this.
No, not at all. Just on kicking game, we've seen just Burton start to finally evolve after a bit too. Some nice short kicks here and a great 40-20. Like it's
Yeah,
a Adam Reynolds
absolutely.
style flat 40-20. If he starts really nailing those extra strings of the bow, he's a little bit scary again.
It just flew across the ground, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was it's like someone absolutely smacked one through the covers or over mid wickets,
Yeah, it was
nice and flat
I
and
think
straight.
it was Reynolds did one last year where we were just sort of gobsmacked, and it was as close to that as I've seen. Great all round performance. Do they make the 8?
Keep going like this, they're a chance. It's still going to be awkward. There's all those teams that on their best day can dust the Dogs, and on the Dogs' best day, the opposite can happen. Obviously, it's just so competitive in that what would you say, probably 7th down to 14th.
10th, yeah,
Those 7
14th.
or
We
8
can make a case
positions there.
to a 12th maybe. Yeah. But exciting time. Like finally some X factor. If you're a Dogs fan, it's been a rough 5 or 6 years, so
Every right to be
enjoy it.
excited.
Enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Anything else to talk about? We'll move on.
The only ones that didn't really mention, I thought Brayley was decent and Leo Thompson was good again for Newcastle. Gamble worked hard but didn't really have much of an impact. Kai Pearce-Paul is turning into a super player.
Yeah.
And Lucas did some good things on the
line
edge
breaks
there for Newcastle. And those two were probably the best two players, the two edge back rowers for Newcastle. Mentioned Hayward, Seven, Kikau. There's not really anyone in the Bulldogs team that we haven't already mentioned, except for Kiraz. Did some really good finishing work again. Is really strong ball in hand and is probably a little bit underrated in defence as well. He seems to position himself quite well defensively as out there for the Bulldogs. But yeah, those three were their best. I thought Marnie, Burton, and Kiraz were the best Dogs on the field.
No, Connor Tracy's got to be in the conversation. Get out of here.
Connor Tracy, right? I didn't even mention him.
No. Do you want to? I've talked about him. Whatever. All right. Yeah, go Burton. I'll go with you. How about Burton, Kiraz, and Tracy?
Sure.
It's a tough one to get with. And we wrapped up with 42-6. The Cowboys' capitulation on Sunday afternoon. Stats?
7 tries to 1, 7 out of 7 conversions for the Sharks, 1 out of 1 for the Cowboys. 24-0 at halftime. 90% completion, played 73% for the Cowboys. 411 plus running meters and 145 plus post contact meters for Cronulla. 4 line breaks to 3, 39 tackle busts, played 34. 11 offloads to 6. 1 forced dropout for both teams. 308 tackles, played 391. 8 errors to 12, 4 penalties conceded from both teams, 2 ruck infringements against the Sharks. 142 Supercoach points for Nico Hines, Ronaldo with 94, Dearden with 74.
We've seen it coming. We've seen it coming from the Cowboys. It didn't just arrive. Like the fucking bottom fell out. Everyone fell out with it, and they're all at the bottom of the cliff now. What is there any even talk about the Cowboys? Their defense was average at best. There was nothing to attack. They just went with us.
Pretty much it. The Sharks did make it pretty hard for them, especially in that first 20 minutes or so. Didn't make an error. Completed at 100% for the first 50 minutes of this game, or 40 around 35 minutes. Didn't make a mistake. Barely missed a tackle or gave away a penalty either. So you're doing that. You're well on. You should be well on top, and they were. The pack for the Cowboys was disappointing. Like, let's be honest, they were pretty well bossed by Hazelton was just running meters for fun through the middle of the field, and obviously scored that first try with some footwork. You throw in Oregon Kafusi, who had one of his better games and was very strong in the middle of the field. Rudolph came in and tore in, and in limited minutes had a good impact. Uele sort of felt his way back into the game, but those big bodies really were pushing around the middle of this Cowboys back, and they didn't really have an answer. Nobody sort of stepped up and had a red hot crack back at him, except for Cotter, who does every week, but he's half the size of these blokes. So I know he can put some good shots on in defence, but he's barely going to, he's going to find it very hard to be bending the line back unless he's put through a hole, on the inside or outside shoulder of some of these defenders. Running straight into the middle of the pack is probably not going to worry too many of these bigger forward packs.
And that was ultimately our fear coming into the season. And now it's sort of coming a little bit to fruition once we get into the real slog of the season and the energy.
And Tamalolo's slowing down.
Well,
You throw in the other big body,
McLean.
McLean. He's half the pace he used to be, so the impact's nowhere near what it used to be.
And
going through the middle of the field.
Now I think it's becoming apparent that Luciano. And you remember how massive Luciano looked in this team last year. So it's the other big one they had. And obviously, injuries out there.
Probably become one of their biggest strike weapons with the ball. He is someone that can bend the line back. But Nano's gone missing a bit.
Yeah.
He's just sort of catching the ball and jogging into the line, and that's about it. He seems to be waiting for that cross kick to grab and score tries, but he's not. He's rampaging last year at different times through the line and taking blokes with him and stomping over people and scoring tries, and it's not happening.
Yeah, they got. I feel like they've got issues now. I think they're going to struggle to get out of the bottom four, but
I saw a whole lot of the time it was basically pass it to Drinkwater and hope he can get on the outside of someone and then release somebody else.
Yeah.
Other than that, it wasn't a great deal going on. Dearden tried his ass off, which he does every week, but he's limited to sort of, right in the middle there, and he gets worked over a little bit.
Now, I didn't mean to take your spotlight from you. Your team won by 40, so you can now talk all the good stuff.
As I mentioned, it was one of the most complete performances we've seen out of the Sharks for a few years. Really good with the ball handling for a large chunk of the game. They did clock off for the last sort of 15 minutes of this one, where they could have really sort of ramped it home and been a bit more aggressive through the middle of the field. They were just going with the shifts to the edges to try and to get tries out there, but they'd already done their hard work through the middle. Brayley had a fantastic game. He was picking them apart, running out of marker. There's some real incisive runs there where he got them, 20 metres down the field and on the front foot, and then it flowed off the back of that. There's still a bit left side centric going through Trindle, which is obviously not going to be happening now. We've got Atkinson, looks like he's going to come in and take that role. Bit more of a running half, which you probably now see Hines having to go back to playing a bit more on both sides of the field.
Time to buy Nick out now, isn't it?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I dare say he's going to have hands on the ball a lot more.
Yeah.
The kicking game will probably come back largely to him. So a lot of those try assists that Trindle's been getting with the kicks across the centres and wingers and stuff like that are now going to probably revert back to Nico Hines. But yeah, there might be some pressure obviously there too, because he's now a spot play where they're going to start running a lot of traffic at Atkinson, and they'll probably run even more. They've been running a lot of traffic at Hines this year as well to try and tire him out, obviously, and you probably see a much more determined effort to send big boys at both of these Sharks halves going forward, and we'll see how that plays out over the next few weeks. But they did use it a little bit more on the right, which got Ramian a little bit more involved, and there was some good stuff coming from him. He does jag around back into the middle of the field and bounces around in circles a bit for my liking. I'd like to just see him put the head down and try to beat a bloke one-on-one more so than that big angled run that he has back into the middle of the field, but it does reap results sometimes. And yeah, the forward pack was really dominant in this one, which is good, and you're seeing some of the big bodies come back for the Sharks. So
Tom Hazelton got to start here and was fantastic. As you said, owned the first part of this game, scored a try. It looked like Jesse Ramian with his footwork there trying to score a try. But
get back through the centres,
you beat through 2 or 3 blokes back in there. But I think that try, to be honest, is in a good representation of where Cowboys are at. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And some of those tries that you saw off the likes of that Stone Street try basically went through untouched. There wasn't a player within sort of 5 metres of him as he brushed past, scored in the corner. Mulatalo again had a night out with, climbing above people and tapping the ball back, catching them for himself, and a nice little grubber in there. Scored himself a double again, and he just keeps scoring tries, that bloke, at the moment. So, yeah, good one to have in Supercoach over the last few weeks.
Absolutely.
Not going to say it's going to keep going forever, but hey, the bloke's averaging near 100, so long may it continue. Iro's looks like he's found a home out there beside him.
Yeah.
really good base worker. Gets through heaps of ball running, strong palm, and a pretty decent defender out there too. So watch him get carved up this week. Now I've said that, but
You'd have been happy with Kennedy's output here, better than it has been
oh
pretty
mate,
much
it
all
was
year.
heaps better than
Actually
it. He was
involved.
actually attacking the ball.
Yeah.
Where a lot of the times this year he's just sat back and watched the bombs go up and just sort of let him hit the ground half the time as well. But he was attacking the ball this time. He's getting he was forcing his way into those backline movements as well, getting involved and getting the ball to his outside men. So I think he ended up winning man of the match. I'm not sure he was quite that good, but he was very good in this game, considering where he's come from.
When he scored first, and just so easily as well, I thought, okay, he's on now, that he might be back.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt when Drinkwater drops it right in front of you.
Exactly.
To open up the scoring. But, yeah, it's amazing what confidence can do for any player.
Absolutely. But, hey, top of the comp, good place to be.
Absolutely.
Realistically, where's your next challenge?
Good for and against.
You got Storm in about a fortnight's time.
We've got the Storm and Panthers in 2 out of our next 3 games. So
yeah,
come round 13, the week or 12 or 13, just before Origin, you're really going to know where they're sitting.
Well, you're actually getting Penrith the week before Origin. Mm-hmm. Fuck, you're blessed. Anyway.
No, that'll be round 11, so that'll be 2 weeks before Origin.
Yeah, okay. 25th of May. Right. Yeah, it would be too. Sorry. Gee, it comes around quick, doesn't it?
And what's that? Broncos Magic Round?
Roosters Magic Round.
So Broncos, Roosters, Panthers, yeah.
Yeah, you got Storm.
3 out of the next 4 games.
Storm. You got.
Oh, sorry, Storm, not Broncos.
Raiders this week on the return match there. Dragons. Then you've got the Storm, the Roosters, Panthers, Sharks, Broncos. So that's your patch there.
Sharks, Broncos. They're going to play themselves, are they?
Eels, sorry.
Eels
very good. Combank. And then all these fucking sea creatures, Dolphins as well after that, just for the record.
Yeah, so in and through Origin is going to be a real tough stretch.
But you'd rather be on top of the comp than anywhere else, so
100%,
cool.
And probably won't lose a huge amount of players to Origin, considering there's a few Pacific Islanders and
or even Nico, as I call him.
Nico, yeah. Okay, so mentions from the Cowboys, Finiaki and Robson were good. Holmes and Chester were okay, tried hard, but didn't really have much of an impact. Drinkwater and Cotter were better than most of them, and Dearden was decent. Yeah, Sharks, I've mentioned them all, really. Iro, Ramian, good involvements. Brayley, Nakora. I didn't mention Nakora. I thought Nakora had another good game, second week back from his return from injury, and he adds a really good option there on the right edge there. Rudolph was very good as well. And we mentioned Hazelton, Kennedy, Hines were the standouts. Oh, Mulatalo and Hines were the standouts.
Go on, you want to do it?
Yeah, Nico, 3 points. Right. It has to come. He was instrumental in everything that happened here. Mulatalo was very close to the 3 points. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone was to give it the other way around. But yeah, Nico, Mulatalo, and then I had 4 of them. You could probably leave the 2 Cowboys out that I mentioned, but I had Kennedy, Drinkwater, Dearden, and Hazelton.
Yeah, I had Hazelton or your fullback. Kennedy. So up to you.
Yeah. Go Hazelton.
I think so too. Another try.
Yeah, and just doing so much good work for him in the middle of the field.
He's a proper find, isn't he? He's very, very handy. They Joey Alchin did tip him on our cameo on that show to score a try, so he found a couple.
750 or something, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that. So well done him. All right, have you got a pot plan of the week?
Jason Tamalolo. He made about 15, 16 tackles, but you expect that. 30 minutes, 5 runs and 5 missed tackles. It was a bit more of a detriment to the middle of the field than anything good for them.
Such an interesting... Peyton's come out and said that he's never going to play more than half an hour anymore because his legs are busted and this, that, and the other. I know he's on $1 million, but at what point do the Cowboys have to look at just paying him out? I know it's a lot of
I
money.
think the time is nigh. To be honest, I think it's
He's there under sufferance, really. I don't think, I think Peyton had his way.
if they could, I
Peyton's
think they'd
playing
be
him because
pretty
he's on $1
happy
million
with him
bucks.
if they could get 12 hit ups out of him and close to 100 meters in that half an hour.
Yeah.
And then the 20 tackles. I think they'd take it, but at the moment his running games is half of what it should be.
Yeah, and it's this is a bloke that was
if your knees are fucked, it makes it pretty hard to run, I suppose.
Exactly. So. But he was the scariest forward in the game at one stage, and so not a knock on his ability, but yeah, he's just not with us. I'm going to pop plant Charlie Staines just because I can. I think a pop plant would have caught a couple of those balls out wide there, but anyway, I've had my slap. Who are you slapping?
Andrew Webster.
Okay.
I thought his bench rotation was horrible in that game, and they were crying out for some fresh legs on the field. He had 3 benchies. One of them played 21 minutes. One of them played 3 minutes, and the other one played 5 minutes.
Yeah, very
When
hard.
you're gassing out like that in the middle of the field and you give 2 blokes 8 minutes, what are you doing?
Yes. That's fair commentary. I'm going to salute the Dragons because just to get all the shit back together and a tricky one, and also had to think too much about individuals, but Shane Flanagan and them, I might have already saluted them this year now I think of this. So we'll throw the Bulldogs in as well, but for 2 obviously reasonable enough coaches to back their systems, go through it, have to make some big calls, and now start to get results, I think well done to both the Dragons and the Bulldogs, who are finally reaping some of the rewards that some of the seeds that were very, very deeply planted at the start of the year. What are your thoughts, Barn?
Yeah, a different attitude. It's been tremendous to see, actually. They were the ones that the upsets were my salutes for the weekend. But mine was an individual, Ben Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has been the heart and soul for that Dragons team, even when they were down at their lowest in the last 2 seasons. He's been the man that's pulled them out of the shit and won games for them when they were winning, and now they're having a little bit more success. And he's still orchestrating a lot of the stuff that they're doing. He is still a fantastic half in this competition. He'd be up there in the top 5 or 6 of them, and he's playing fantastic footy. So long may it continue. Although they had a brilliant game on the weekend, and most games this year he's been pretty strong for the Dragons. So.
And you'll go in and play 9 or 14 again for Queensland and do the same thing now.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. That's it for us from a review point of view. We're going to get stuck into Anzac Round on the YouTube channel and on Spotify as well. By the time you see this, that'll all be up. Leave us some feedback. Let us know your thoughts on where some of these clubs are at. And we will talk very soon, guys. Bye.
Bye.